at the same time Stars and Stripes all blending together, and down below you can see a bunch of DVDs floating around, which of course nobody's buying anymore, but that's beside the point. And I was very fortunate to have Kodansha, it's a Japanese publisher, pick up this book, and a Japanese translator translate my writing. I did not write this in Japanese. I wish I could claim that, but I did not. This was translated. And a couple other things I brought as sort of show and tell, and I just have to beg you not to keep these because I only have one copy each of these things, but I'm going to entrust them with you if you want to pass them around. This might fascinate you. This is an Akihabara tour guide. Akihabara is the neighborhood in East Tokyo, the east side of Tokyo, that is, comparatively speaking, a ground zero for Japanese pop culture and anime, especially for the marketing of it. It's also home to the decades-old electronics town where you can find gadgets in all shapes and sizes, and the latest to the most ancient. In fact, there's a place in Akihabara where a guy sells German television tubes from the 1930s, I think. And I had a guy contacted me from Der Spiegel, the German magazine, Der Spiegel. Some of you guys are sort of a bit like Time magazine in Germany. Actually, probably better than Time magazine. But he wanted me to take him to this place because there was a certain tube, and he had a black and white photograph of it, that he claimed you could not find in all of Germany. But this one guy in Akihabara was selling them. So talk about otaku. I mean, that's really going in deep. So anyway, this is a tour guide to Akihabara. This is a couple of American transplants to Japan who are cosplayers, who live in Japan, study Japanese, and are at Japanese universities. On weekends, they give English language tours of Akihabara. And they will take you everywhere you want to go in that neighborhood, from maid cafes to back alley German tube sellers to manga drawing studios to animation universities. It's an extraordinary experience. I went on this and they dress up. The one guy dresses up as Goku. He's a very large Goku, very tall Goku. His name is Patrick Galbraith. So I thought I'd pass this around just so you can get a sense of the cross-cultural thing happening. I mean, this is happening in Japan, and these are Americans who are there who have set up a kind of side business on weekends, giving foreigners in particular from all over the world tours of Akihabara, and doing it out of love, really. They don't make that much money off it. They do it out of the love of the form and the culture. And so I'll just pass this out here. And a couple other things I have to hand around. I'm part of a program called Anime Masterpieces, and what we do is we try to bring anime films to universities and museums around the United States, where actually people who are probably unlike most of you don't really know much about this anime manga stuff, but they've heard about it, or their kids have talked about it. So they go to a museum and sit down and watch a screening of these films, and they're attended by people like Fred Schott, John Dower, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author on Japan, Susan Napier, Ian Condry, people like that who have a discussion afterwards with the folks. And one of the films is Grave of the Fireflies, which we just screened at the Museum of Fine Arts Boston on Tuesday. And we'll also be screening Tekon Kincrete, which came out in 2006. A unique project because it was all produced by, the original manga artist is Japanese, the animators were all Japanese, but the director was an American who has lived in Japan for 17 years, and the screenwriter was an American who worked with the manga artists on turning it into a movie. So I'm just going to pass these around as well. These are essays by various animation critics and specialists in Japanese culture on these films. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Please, go ahead.
With people not buying DVDs as much, American DVDs.
Right.
Will there be a viable U.S. market for this? Will we see just a total collapse of the U.S. market in 5 or 10 years, or do you think they can adapt and go totally digital and find a way to sell this stuff and make money digital?
The question is, with the collapse of DVD sales, will the American market completely collapse, or will they find a way around it? I don't see the market collapsing just because of the demand. It seems to me more and more young Americans and Americans of different ethnic backgrounds want to learn more about anime, want to see more of it. The problem is, of course, the medium itself, the DVD, is dying. And it's dying across the board. But it's especially severe with anime because so many anime fans are young. And they're internet savvy and they don't want to carry DVDs around. They certainly don't want to pay for them. So one of the things that's happened most recently, again, many of you probably know this, but Crunchyroll, which is one of the most popular fan sites, basically giving away pirated anime and television and so on. They have gone legit, or tried to go legit, and they've made partnerships with anime producers in Japan, and it's now a pay site for the top quality material. Whether that's going to work, I don't know, and it does seem to me, as someone mentioned earlier today, that the real people who are paying for this are the American-based distributors of Japan's pop media. The anime producers in Japan have been lackadaisical to ignorant of the overseas market, with very few exceptions. And they're still quite content to focus on their domestic market, which has stayed fairly stable. They are also in trouble, though, at home because there's a declining birth rate in Japan. Many of you know it's the aging population. So they're losing that next generation of fans who will pay 5,000 yen for a new DVD, which is about $50. Actually, it's more than $50 now that the yen is so powerful. So there's trouble coming at home as well. But I think as long as the demand is there on this side, people are going to find a way to digitally distribute it, and people are going to find a way to digitally consume it. Whether the industry makes a penny or a yen off that, that's another question. That's kind of their problem, in a way. But I know people in that industry, and so I'm worried about them. Yeah.
You said that the book was mainly about an overall Japanese culture, but the cover of the book obviously focuses directly on anime, and I believe it was published in 2006.
That's right, the hardcover.
Yeah. So it seems like anime was a large hype in the United States back then, but over the past couple of years, it has really picked up into the different aspects of the culture, like K-pop and pop or whatever. So do you think that the cover kind of still reflects a dependency on anime as the driving force of interest in Japan?
Well, what I said in the book at the time was that whatever facet of Japanese popular culture one was interested in, anime and manga were its public face. Whether it was Hello Kitty or even the multicolored platters of Japanese food. I tried to argue that this notion of a kind of colorful yet refined approach to visual imagery was best encapsulated by the image of manga and anime, the facial image of manga and anime. However, it's 2009 now, and you're right, a lot of things have changed and broadened. I mean, I never would have thought in 2006 when I was working on the book that Gosurori or Gothic Lolita fashions would be a hit in America the way they seem to be becoming a hit. And in fact, an important addition to that is some of you know Viz Media is one of the biggest distributors of animation and manga here, and they are actually a partner company with 5 different Japanese publishers. So they have a lot of access to licensing. Seiji Horobuchi, the founder of Viz Media, is planning to open this year, although it might be next year now that the economy has gone into a tailspin, but what he calls the J-Pop Center in Japantown in San Francisco. And his vision for it is to have 3 stories, one of which is devoted exclusively to Japanese fashion, clothing fashion, street fashion, and one of which is devoted exclusively to Japanese gadgets. And not just electronic gadgets, but really cool things you can use around your house. Some of you may know the Japanese are brilliant at producing a little device that will keep all your shirts from wrinkling, or something to fold your t-shirts perfectly. In fact, a friend of mine, a woman named Lisa Katayama, has published a book called Urawaza, which contains all these little devices that they have in Japan for making your life much more convenient.